What is up, guys? My name is Sid Corrigan, and we are back on F1 24 Driver Career. This is Season 2, Episode number 12 today for the Mexico Grand Prix. Coming up. So we are coming off my home race around COTA. Go check out that episode first if you haven't seen it yet before you see this one. It was a bit of a rough weekend as I suffered a gearbox failure in the sprint, and Verstappen was able to gain 19 points on me in the title fight by virtue of winning the sprint and the feature race. And as we look at the development chart, the turnaround time to Mexico is very short, so no teams are bringing upgrades to this weekend's race. As we take a look at the standings heading into Mexico, Verstappen is just 8 points back. So can Red Bull carry their dominance into Mexico, or was COTA just a track that suited their car? Let's get straight into it. Let's head to qualifying.
What an atmosphere we've got. The fans have been here since dawn, and the stadium, the Faro Sol, is absolutely heaving. We're about to get set to set the grid for tomorrow's Grand Prix. It's qualifying day here in Mexico City.
So there's even more pressure on me heading into qualifying, as I've had to take a new internal combustion engine at the start of the weekend, so I'm already on the back foot heading into qualifying, as I'll have a 10-place grid penalty. So it's very important that I qualify as high as possible and try to make the recovery as easy on myself as I can. As I head out of the final corner, I'm fastest through Sector 1 and 2 as I try to dial into this circuit as quickly as I can. That's fastest for the moment and good enough to see us through in third, as Hamilton in the Mercedes tops the first session, and our teammate is able to make it through in 12th, as Hulkenberg has really struggled in qualifying and race pace this season. We could really use his help as we try to steal second in the constructors from Ferrari, as we lose Gasly, both Kicksaubers, Ricciardo, and Sargent here in Q1. And here in Q2, I've put myself under a little bit of pressure as I was unable to put in a good banker lap on used softs. As I'm struggling a little bit around Mexico, it seems very low grip. It could be that I'm struggling a little bit with the lower wings, as I have a little bit of a lockup and run wide through turn 12. Knowing I was going to take the grid penalty before the race weekend, I went ahead and lowered the wings by a couple clicks, and I'm struggling a little bit through the corners as a result of that. But I have put up 2 purple sectors to the line that's good enough for second for the moment, and good enough to see us through in second, half a tenth behind Verstappen, who has found his form here in Q2, and a surprise exit from Hamilton in the Mercedes after topping the first quali session. He's knocked out down in 11th, 2 places ahead of my teammate, who continues to struggle to come to grips with our car this season. Our car is definitely good enough to get him into Q3 consistently.
Everyone ready? Okay, let's go.
But Hulkenberg has been unable to find his form throughout the entire season. It's a bit like real life with Red Bull, with Verstappen maximizing the car every weekend and his teammates struggling mightily. As I rocket down the very long straight into the first chicane, I'm having to manage the battery a little bit down that straight to make sure I have enough for the rest of the lap. And frustratingly, I put in my worst lap of the session here in Q3, as I ran a little bit wide in the first corner. I still put in a purple Sector 1, but considering it's 2 long straights and a chicane, and I'm running lower wings than probably most other cars around me, I didn't gain as much time as I would have hoped over my banker lap, as the car feels very nervous over the curbs. I don't know if I got the setup slightly wrong, or if that's just an aspect of the track here around Mexico. I do set a personal best Sector 2, but we're heading into the tight, twisty stadium section where the car is going to struggle the most with the lower wings. I'm just trying to limit the damage as we get a little bit squirrely over the exit curb. I had to wait just a split second to get back on the power as we head through the final corner to the line, and that's good enough for third for the moment.
Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow. We head into the Grand Prix.
But that's only good enough for fifth, as we have an all Red Bull front row with Verstappen starting on pole by over 2 tenths. The Ferraris are showing good pace, qualifying 3rd and 6th, and all have quite the recovery to do, dropping down to 15th. And Verstappen is in the driver's seat to retake the lead in the Drivers' Championship. Let's head to the grid.
Back in the 60s, Mexico City would host the season-ending race, a party of motor racing. Well, we might not host the finale now, but Mexico hosts a party nonetheless. So welcome to the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for the Mexico City Grand Prix. The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, 2.6 miles of track that allows drivers to take full advantage of their cars, reaching speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour and providing lots of opportunities for overtaking. The circuit features 17 corners, 10 to the right and the remaining 7 going to the left. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Norris, Tsunoda, Russell, Fernando Alonso, Stroll, Oscar Piastri, Hamilton, Ocon, Hülkenberg, Albon, Sainz, Haas, Gasly, Bottas, Joe, Ricciardo, and Logan Sargent. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Okay, Mark here, radio check. Check, can you hear me? Okay, we had a fantastic result at the last race. Let's try it again here.
So I have a lot of work to do here in Mexico to try to limit the damage to Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship, as I'm going on the alternate strategy and starting on the hards, gambling a little bit that I might lose a little bit of pace off the start, but that I'll gain it back as we go deeper into this race. I have a lot of faith in myself and the car that I can recover.
It's good. Gearbox is responding normally. Make sure to warm up the tyres and brakes. Warm the tyres
To a
and
good
brakes
result
throughout the
here,
lap, please.
but realistically knowing that by taking that penalty, I've likely handed the lead in the drivers back to Verstappen, and the 5 red lights and the Mexico Grand Prix is underway as we get a bit of wheel spin off the start, struggling a little bit to launch on the hards compared to everyone else around me on the mediums, as Bottas and Gasly go by, as I use some battery to try to stay close to the kick Sauber, as I have to take some avoiding action around the outside, as I nearly clattered into the back of Bottas as he braked very early for the first chicane, as we're stuck behind Ocon and Albon as they battle ahead, as Tsunoda tries to attack Perez, the Red Bull and Ferrari battling over 3rd and 4th, and Russell has had a monster start, going from 6th all the way up to 2nd as Perez and Tsunoda continue their battle through turn 6. I try to find a way around the outside of Hamilton, but the 7-time world champion manages to fend us off and maintain the final points paying position. So a decent start for us on the first lap, up from 15th to 11th on the hards. Now we need to settle in, pick off as many of these drivers ahead of us as we can,
My start was okay. Now stay alert for threats around you.
and get ready for a very long first stint on the hards as we have a little bit of a look into turn 12, but decide better of it. I'm gonna have to exercise patience with this strategy, but I got a very good exit out of the final corner. No DRS yet, just tucked into Hamilton's slipstream. And we're gonna go around the outside through the first chicane, make our way up into the points. Verstappen leads from Russell and Perez, the 2 Ferraris in 4th and 5th, as I chase down Piastri in the McLaren with the DRS. Piastri is one of our rivals, so we'll try to make this move quick and clean as we go up the inside. Went a little bit deep into the first part of the chicane to get that move done, but we do manage
Brilliant. Nice move. Keep going.
to finish off the move up into 9th, setting my sights on Stroll and Alonso in the Aston Martins. The Aston Martin showing better pace here than they had around Coda, and it's taken me a couple laps to close up to the back of Alonso as we've settled into a bit of a DRS train over the last several laps. But Alonso has shut his battery off early, and we're gonna dump some battery and try to go around the outside through the first chicane. Through the second corner, we managed to finish off the move as I have a little bit of a wobble on the exit curb of turn 3, and I've been struggling there the entire race weekend. And at the front of the field, Verstappen has opened up a big gap to Russell in second, and Russell has managed to get outside of a second to Perez in third, which is putting the Red Bull under pressure from the two Ferraris behind. And on lap 7, Stroll has dropped out of the DRS of Norris, which is giving us an opportunity. We go around the outside into the first chicane, make our way up into 7th, showing just how powerful the DRS is, especially down that long opening straight, as Stroll was a sitting duck, having fallen outside the DRS of Norris in 6th. I am struggling a little bit recovering enough battery, having to wait in the DRS for a lap, recharge, and then attack again, turning the battery off through the slower sectors. This is the first race this season where I've really struggled with the levels of the ERS. As we try to chase down Norris, we are in the DRS, but we're not making much progress at the moment, as the McLaren also has the DRS on Leclerc ahead. Everyone is sort of settling in to this DRS train at the moment, as Perez has caught the back of Russell, and I wonder if that Mercedes is suffering higher tire drag than the Red Bull, as his pace has just dropped off as he falls into the clutches of Perez, and the Red Bulls are 1-2 at the moment, showing incredibly strong pace in back-to-back weekends. As Russell is still holding on to third for the moment, but Tsunoda and Leclerc putting a lot of pressure on the Mercedes driver. Tsunoda showing excellent pace after struggling in comparison to Leclerc over most of the season, after he got that second Ferrari seat that I felt like should have been mine. As I've mentioned in previous episodes, that's why I want to beat Ferrari in the Constructors so badly. Prove that they made a mistake going outside the Ferrari Academy for their second Ferrari seat. Winning a driver's title and beating Ferrari in the Constructors with Haas seems a good way to do that, as on lap 11, Alonso is challenging his teammate through the first chicane. It's an aggressive move that Alonso will finish off, reasserting himself as the #1 driver at Aston Martin, as Tsunoda is putting Russell under pressure for the final podium position as they go side by side into the first chicane. And if Ferrari is going to get solid drives out of Tsunoda like this, we can pretty much count out second place in the Constructors, as Tsunoda's very mediocre first season with Ferrari has been what's keeping us within striking distance of Ferrari for second, as Leclerc also has put Russell under pressure as they go side by side through turn 4.
Okay, red flag, mate, red flag. No overtaking, please. We'll see you in the pit lane.
And a red flag is going to throw a big twist into this race, as Verstappen is going to lose his big lead at the front. And taking a look at what brought out the red flag, it's Ocon losing the back end over the curb in the first corner. My teammate Albon and Sainz make it through without incident, but then Ocon throws it in reverse, blocking Zhou and Sargent, bringing a stop to the two cars on track and bringing out the red flag.
Let's make the best of this restart. Let's go.
And the 5 red lights, and the Mexico Grand Prix is underway as Alonso gets a very good launch, going between Norris and I, making his way up into 5th. We've been dropped down to 7th on the restart. Sainz is out, having a mechanical failure immediately on the restart, as we have a 4-wide moment into the first corner. 2 Red Bulls, 2 Ferraris battling it out as Leclerc has launched from 4th all the way into the lead of the race. Verstappen has managed to hold on to 2nd. I don't know how there wasn't contact in that first corner battle. 4 cars into that corner, not ending in disaster. Ferrari and Red Bull should count themselves as lucky, as we're getting held up behind Russell and Alonso, battling over 5th and 6th, and we will have good pace early in this stint on the mediums. Unfortunately, it's going to be a very long stint for us, so we're going to have to try to save tires early, as our strategy gamble has backfired, as that red flag was perfectly timed for the cars who started on the mediums and very badly timed for us, as we go around the outside of Russell through turn 12, improving up into 6th, as the Mercedes driver lost a lot of time battling Alonso, as Verstappen is using the DRS to attack Leclerc for the lead of the race, trying to retake what Leclerc so audaciously took on the restart. And behind that battle, Perez is trying to overtake Tsunoda as the Red Bulls try to reestablish authority over this race. as Verstappen is probably the only other driver that feels hard done by that red flag more than I do, as Tsunoda, having lost the position to Perez, is now coming under pressure from Alonso in the Aston Martin as they go side by side through turn 6. I'm having to bide my time, but getting a little bit frustrated as this battle slows us into turn 7. I nearly run into the back of Tsunoda. This battle is going to drop them off the back of Perez as we manage to go around the outside of Tsunoda through the fast S's.
Nice work, mate. That brings you up a place.
As Tsunoda got a little bit out of shape in his battle with Alonso, opening the window to us as I close right up to the back of Alonso. This should give me a good opportunity down the main DRS straight as Verstappen puts in the fastest lap. As Verstappen again is going to try to run and create a huge gap at the front of the field. Will Leclerc be able to hang with the Red Bull? As I use the DRS and a little bit of battery to close up to the back of Alonso. But again, our battery is running lower than I would like. As we go around the outside of Alonso through the first chicane, run a little bit wide on the exit of turn 3, but the move was finished by then, and we make our way up into 4th as we check in with our teammate, who's coming under pressure from Russell in the Mercedes. Russell goes around the outside through turn 12, but where did Russell's pace go? At one point, he was in 2nd place, having broken the DRS to Perez in 3rd, and now he finds himself down and out of the points in 11th, battling my teammate, who is again struggling to get a handle on the car.
We're catching the car ahead. Well done, but be aware these tyres need to get us to the end of this race.
And Mark is just giving me the warning that I have a very long stint ahead on these mediums, but I have been able to use my pace on these mediums to catch up to the back of Perez on the hards and use the DRS to stay close as I again struggle with the exit curb on turn 3, but even with a good exit, the move was not forthcoming as that Red Bull is a rocket ship in a straight line. Even with our lower wings, I'm having trouble staying with Perez. But one lap later, I have used the DRS on Perez to pull away from Alonso, giving ourselves a little bit of a gap, taking the pressure off from the cars behind. As we follow Perez through the first chicane, we're going to get another bite of the DRS, this time with a much better exit through turn 3. Perez decides not to go defensive as we go up the inside through turn 4. I have a lock of the rear brakes and nearly spin, but I managed to drift my way through the corner. As we take a look at the front of the field, and Verstappen has not been able to break away from Leclerc. Leclerc's managed to stay close. The Ferrari showing much better pace around Mexico than they had around Coda, as Perez uses the DRS to go back around the outside of me through turn 12. I didn't use a lot of battery to defend, as we're probably going to trade this position back and forth several times over the next DRS zones, and I need to be very wary of how I use my battery and preserving as much tire life as possible, as I still have half of my 22-lap stint to do on these mediums. And I would like to avoid inviting Alonso back into the fight as we go back around the outside of Perez through the first chicane. And if I can salvage 3rd or 4th out of this race after starting 15th, that would be a major win for me in my mind, as we use the DRS in the 2nd zone to create a little bit of a gap, but I am already struggling on these tires, getting understeer on corner entry and oversteer trying to get back on the power on corner exit, as Perez is all over the back of me through the fast S's, as I'm having to lift more than I would like to try to preserve these tires and get them to the end, as another pit stop would pretty much relegate me outside the points. And at this point, after the restart, the hard tires are the better tires to be on. As Perez makes his way through turn 12, I let that move happen, turning the battery off and not defending, but even losing as little time as possible fighting Perez, Alonso has managed to work his way back into the DRS. As we go back around the outside of Perez, I'm trying to strategically use these DRS zones to maintain my position as I'm soon going to come under pressure from Alonso and Tsunoda as my mediums start to fall off a cliff.
So gap to the car ahead, 8.3 seconds.
Towards the end of this race. As on lap 27, it's not me coming under pressure, but Perez coming under pressure from Alonso as the Aston Martin makes his way through into turn 4. He had a little bit of a lockup, but still managed to finish off the move up into 4th, and another car getting involved could throw off my DRS strategy to get to the end of this race. As at the front of the field, Verstappen has been unable to break away from Leclerc. Leclerc is still hanging in the DRS of Verstappen. As Alonso is gaining quickly on me, I go defensive, but there's nothing I can do to hold the Aston Martin back. Trying to burn just enough battery to keep Perez behind, but he'll have another bite of the DRS as we go down this second shorter straight, and I'm gonna have to burn a lot more battery than I would like to keep Perez behind. And a third car getting involved in my DRS strategy is making it far more complicated to try to hold on to 4th and give myself any chance of a podium around Mexico. As on lap 29, Perez and I both have the DRS on Alonso, but Perez is trying to make the move on us as I give him a squeeze to the inside, hoping Alonso will move to the inside to cover off Perez, and he does, and that gives me the window to go around the outside through the first chicane, and I'll get another bite of the DRS down this straight, which should help me hold on to 3rd, for the moment at least. But 3rd through 7th are all within DRS of each other, so whoever's at the front of this train is going to be very vulnerable to lose many positions, especially down that long start-finish straight, as I'm trying to save as much battery as I can to prevent that. But the closing stages of this race are very much going to come down to DRS games and positioning, as Alonso moves to the inside, retaking 3rd as the DRS games continue, as I absolutely need the DRS to stay ahead of this long train of cars, as our battery again is dipping below 25% as we go back up the inside of the Aston Martin, retaking 3rd, and Perez is going to try to make a move on the Aston Martin as well, as we have a bit of a snap on the exit.
Nice overtake.
As the battle between Alonso and Perez has given us a small gap to try to run this lap, but I don't think I have the tires to keep them out of DRS. Maybe if I was on the hards, I could have found a way to maintain this 1 second gap. But Alonso has found his way right back into the DRS, and I am really struggling on these mediums as they approach 50% wear, as there's the yellow flag in Sector 1 for Bottas, who's retiring as we take a big lift into turn 12, allowing Alonso to come through, and that'll give us DRS down the main straight and allow us to defend from Perez as we check in on what happened to Bottas. Coming through the first chicane, the day for Kick Sauber goes from bad to worse, as they are both struggling for pace, but Bottas is slowing down with some kind of mechanical failure. He does manage to place his car in a place that's easily recoverable, so no safety car is necessary. As at the front of the field, we see Leclerc putting Verstappen under pressure. He's managed to stay within a second of the Red Bull over the course of the second half of this race, ever since the restart, as I close up to the back of Alonso and go back around the outside through the first chicane. And as the tires drop off more and more, I'm having more and more problems saving battery, as we're under 25% yet again, and we're nearly at 10% by the end of the last straight, and I can't create any kind of gap, especially through this slower section, as I'm having to turn the battery off and go into maximum recharge mode and harvest as much charge as I can to try to stay ahead of Alonso and Perez, as Mark wants me to have more consistent lap times, but trading off DRS with Alonso and Perez is making my lap times really erratic, so I don't know that I'm going to be able to accomplish that objective. As Alonso goes back up the inside through turn 12, we're not going to fight that very hard as the DRS games continue. As Stroll and Hamilton go side by side towards turn 4, both cars with DRS. Stroll has really fallen off the pace since losing that position to Alonso much earlier in the race, as they're having a heck of a battle still side by side through turns 5 and 6. heading towards the fast S's out of turn 7. Stroll manages to stay ahead, holding on to 9th, as Hamilton has had a very quiet race.
Keep managing your tyres, manage your tyres.
As we head on to the penultimate lap, my battery is very low as Perez is putting me under significant pressure as I had a bad final sector and fell too far off the back of Alonso. The DRS has dragged me back up as I do manage to stay ahead of Perez in 4th, but Alonso is pulling away in 3rd as I just don't have the battery to close back up to the Aston Martin. And battling Perez through the first chicane compromised my line, as a podium might be just out of reach for me now. As we head through the final sector, getting ready to start the final lap, where everyone will finish is still very much up in the air right now, as Alonso has managed to break the DRS to me in 4th, and at the front of the field, Leclerc is going to have one more chance to take the lead of this race. As Verstappen goes defensive, Leclerc goes through into turn 4, showing Leclerc might very much have been waiting until the final lap to take the lead, playing some DRS games of his own, as I have a huge snap of oversteer coming out of the final corner. That's going to put me under intense pressure from Perez, who makes his way through easily down the start-finish straight, as I'm very much a sitting duck without the DRS and running low on battery as I try to go back up the inside of Tsunoda through the first chicane, and I do manage to finish off that move. Holding on to 5th, Tsunoda will have one more shot at DRS on me as I'm struggling for any semblance of grip on these dying mediums. But Norris is doing me a huge favor, trying to go around the outside of Tsunoda through turn 4. This battling is going to give me a little bit of breathing room. As they continue their battle through turns 5 and 6, Tsunoda does manage to stay ahead, but Norris has given me a little bit of a gap to try to hold on to 5th. As I make my way through the fast S's, Alonso and Perez have totally gotten away from me. These tires are very dead right now, as Leclerc has managed to win the Mexico Grand Prix, and the Ferrari driver has done me a major favor, keeping Verstappen from scoring maximum points. As Alonso and Perez come through the final sector, Perez is not going to have time to catch Alonso, and the Aston Martin driver is going to get himself a surprise podium around Mexico. As I come through the final sector, massively fighting these very worn tires, I have a huge slide through the final corner and a snap of oversteer trying to get back on the power, but Tsunoda's challenge is going to come up just short, and I'm going to hold on to 5th.
To the checkered flag, it's King Charles today. He wins.
To overcome the difficult circumstances they face throughout this race today, Crofty, it's not easy, and it really shows a lot of maturity. And you can use this, you can draw on this as a driver moving forward and boost your confidence through the rest of the championship.
Looking at the podium, you can see that red suit familiar to fans across the globe. A world-class win for a world-class team. Ferrari, do it again.
As Leclerc steals a win on the final lap from Verstappen, Leclerc played that perfectly, staying within the DRS of Verstappen and snatching victory away at the last minute. So that's bad news for our constructors battle, but good news for my drivers' championship fight. But I'm somehow going to have to find an answer to the pace that Red Bull has been showing over the last 2 races, as they have really found their form with the last upgrade that they brought to Coda, unlocking a massive amount of pace for them, as both drivers have found their form. And with Verstappen's 2nd place, he gains a further 7 points on me in the Drivers' Championship. I do manage to steal the bonus point for fastest lap, and I do have to be happy salvaging 5th, starting 15th after taking that grid penalty. Unfortunately, my teammate finished outside the points again, down in 12th, as he has just been unable to find an answer to get a handle on the car. And as we take a look at the Drivers' Championship, my lead has been brought down to just 1 point. So that 1 point I took today for fastest lap keeps me in the lead for the Drivers' Championship heading into the final 4 races. But if I want any chance of winning this Drivers' Championship, the team and I are going to have to come up with an answer to this overwhelming Red Bull pace. As we take a look at the Constructors' battle, Ferrari extend their lead over us in the constructors to 35 with their strong result today. And second in the constructors is looking further and further away unless Hülkenberg can find his form quickly at the end of this season, especially if Tsunoda keeps putting in performances like that. I do extend my lead over Piastri in our rivalry, as the second McLaren driver had a rather quiet day, finishing 8th around Mexico, and my rating gets a nice boost with a strong recovery drive. Unfortunately, we just ran out of tires towards the end of that race. Our strategy gamble going on the hards at the start just didn't pay off today with a badly timed red flag. As our recognition hovers around 55%, we're still 5 percentage points off unlocking the final upgrades to this car, and I don't think we're going to get there before the end of this season. Unfortunately, as those ultimate upgrades would help us catch up to the back of that very dominant Red Bull, we do get a major weight reduction upgrade heading into Portugal, so hopefully that'll help us close the gap a little bit. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for this week. I'll see you next week in Portugal. Goodbye.